Welcome to the Biz Kids Podcast, where young entrepreneurs rise, shine, and redefine what is possible. Ready to launch your business? Well, buckle up. We're about to launch. Welcome to the Biz Kid Podcast. I'm JD Rabali, your host, and today we have with us Grant Putman. Grant is a young entrepreneur and has tried out many different things, and we're going to hear some stories from him today. But as always, we always like to start off talking about entrepreneurship and what our love and what inspires us to get going. And I know Grant, when I first met Grant, he was 17 years old. We were at a networking event and he shows up. He'd never been to a networking event before, and he was kind of looking a little lost and didn't know what to do, but he jumped in there. He wasn't scared to talk to people. He shared his ideas, and our local networking group took him under their wing, and really a lot of people mentored him along the way. So we want to hear about that story. But Grant, as we always like to know, is when you were even younger, did you have any business ideas that kind of got you started thinking entrepreneurship as a kid?
Yeah, I definitely think it was always kind of caked into my mind, how I could make extra money. I was one of those kids that, we had vending machines at school, and I just loved being able to save up quarters I found in the grocery store and buy snacks. But it wasn't enough most of the time. I'd find pennies and dimes. And this idea struck me one day when I was in fifth grade. I went to a school called the Bonita Springs Charter School. We had little vending machines full of snacks. I was really good at drawing, and my friends and the people who went to school with me, they were always so amazed that I could draw 3D pictures so well. That was a big deal when I was in fifth grade. And I thought, well, I really love this game called Minecraft. Now those characters are 3D characters, so I'm going to draw these characters and I'm going to try to sell it to my classmates for a quarter. And believe it or not, it worked exceptionally well. It's not something that I, as an adult, would think would be in demand in the fifth grade space, but I pretty consistently throughout the week would have enough money for every single lunch to buy those snacks that I wanted. It wasn't really a huge enterprise because I was the only person really producing anything, but it still makes me laugh when I think about it.
And it's a way to start. I actually had a vending machine business for a while, and I had a lot of my snack machines in schools,
Mhm.
and they were money makers, man. Those kids went through the candy and the treats. I'd be in there 2 or 3 times a week filling up the machine. So thank you to all those kids that spend money on candy at school while their parents aren't watching. So.
Yep. Oh yeah, you got to think as a kid who regularly ate the school lunches, I was craving the chips and candy and whatever else. I don't think we really had candy at our school, thankfully, but still, it's a great business to be in, I think.
Those little quarter machines that you put a quarter in and you got a handful of M&Ms or Skittles or anything like that. Those were the cash cow. Those would bring in so much
Oh,
money.
I can only imagine.
So it was a fun little business to have. We called it Snack Daddy Vending.
Snack
And
Daddy, that's great.
and the best part about it was I had a closet at home. It was like a huge double closet that we had full of candy bars, soda, just packed to the ceiling. And so my son's little friends would come over and they would look in it and he'd show them. They're like, "Look at our candy stash," and they'd be like, "Oh, wow!" It's like hitting the mother lode.
That's when he goes, "Hey, my dad's not looking, but $2 and I'll give you a candy bar."
Exactly. Yeah, he was probably making money on the side selling my candy. So yeah.
Smart,
So
you know what kids want.
so as a young entrepreneur, you kind of got the bug at a young age. So let's kind of jump ahead to like when you were 17. All of a sudden you show up to this networking event. What made you decide, hey, I'm going to go to this networking event and try to promote this business I'm just starting? And what was the business?
So it's a bit of a long story leading up to that. I call it the butterfly effect because I don't think that I was expecting to wind up at this networking event with a bunch of strangers being, 17 years old. But I'd say about 6 months before that, I was feeling a little bit lost, like something was missing, like there was something more that I could be doing. I was working 2.5 jobs, going through high school and trying to get ahead on college all at the same time. And I felt like this wasn't really anything fulfilling. And I feel like I want to do something more impactful with my time and better with my time. I was feeling kind of aimless. And so I went to my dad and I was like, Dad, what do I do? Like, I want to make money and, like prepare to start my life and I want to do something meaningful, but like working at restaurants and working at dry cleaners are just not for me. What do I do? And he handed me a book by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he's like, read this. This has the answers you need. And I kind of looked at him like, I didn't ask what should I read. I asked you what should I do? And he insisted, read this book. So I reluctantly went back into my room and I opened up the first page and started to read it. And I was there until about 3 in the morning until I finished the book in one sitting. And something in my head just flipped and I realized, oh my gosh, I have to start a business. I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about this world, but I know that I need to start a business. So I went back out that morning. It was probably a weekend. I feel like it was like a Saturday, and he was watching TV in the living room. And I ran up to him. I said, Dad, I need to start a business. What should I start a business in? And he kind of looks over and he goes, I mean, pressure washers make a lot of money. Maybe you could do pressure washing. Okay. So I went back into my room, got on my computer, and started hours and hours of research. So one thing led to another. I learned about pressure washing. I didn't even know what it really was at the time. And then I realized, okay, I know what it is. How do I get business? Went back out of the living room. Dad, how do I get clients? I don't understand. And he goes, I get invites on Facebook all the time for networking events. You should check those out. What the heck's a networking event? We'll go to one and figure it out. And so that turned into my streak of going on Facebook, finding these networking events and just showing up. And Grow happened to be my second ever networking event that I attended.
Okay.
So my mindset was, and maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but my mindset was, I have no idea what I'm doing here. But after my first networking event, I realized there's a bunch of people who are here who all have businesses, who have all told me stories upon meeting me of, oh, I remember when I started my business at X age with no money in my bank account, with this, with that, and they share with me their drive. And I realized, wait, there's tons of people around me who have all the answers that I need. I just need to figure out how to ask them. So my philosophy was no stupid questions. If I had a question that I could use to lead into another question, I would just start asking, just firing them off for as long as they were willing to listen to me for. And eventually I would start getting some valuable knowledge. So some of my questioning led to me being recommended to go to Grow. And as a result, I showed up there having no idea what I was doing, and the rest is history. I met you and met all the other great people that are there. And I mean, now here I am 5 years later, I think it is.
And I remember you walking in that day, and everybody kind of was kind of shocked because you don't really see young people walking into these networking events. They
Mhm.
are usually people that already have established businesses, or maybe they're older and they're just starting their business, and they don't know how to work a networking group, and they're like standing over in the corner shy. But
Mhm.
you walked in and you just started talking to people and
I
started
just
asking questions. So,
Nearest
and
person I didn't recognize. Hi, I'm Grant. It's nice to meet you.
and all the ladies in the room were like, "Oh, he's so cute.
Right.
Let's help him." And so I know everybody jumped in, and then to join our networking group, it's about a $900 investment for that year, and I think some people jumped in and helped you out right away on helping you even cover the cost, right?
Probably the greatest blessing I think I had from when I was running my business was the fact that there were so many great people at Grow that pitched in just so I could stay because I really wanted to, but I hadn't quite gotten my feet off the ground to be able to do it. I didn't have the business coming in. I think I had been less than a month in business, maybe 2 to 4 weeks, because even before the networking, I was door knocking. The days that I wasn't on a shift for one of my jobs, I was outside until sundown, knocking on doors, trying to get enough money to start. And at that point, I had gotten enough money to buy all the equipment that I had without needing to finance anything. But then I had $0. I was holding the bag at the end of the day. I still needed more jobs, more business. So
And I don't know if I ever told you, but that's how my lawn care company started.
yeah, and
Um,
that's kind of what after hearing that and Grow, it really kicked me in the tush to get to put the hours in, and really get going. I was really inspired hearing that from you specifically.
And I would, and when first began, I didn't have any clients either, and I'd go door knocking, and I would work a job during the day. I actually went to work at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would get off at about 3. And so after 3, I would start knocking doors until about 6 or 7 at night, and that's how I built it. It took many years to get it up where I could feel comfortable like walking away from the job. But there was a lot of times of just people slamming doors in your face, dogs chasing you, all the good stuff.
It's hard.
I even had a turkey chase me off the property one time.
You had a turkey?
A wild turkey like chasing me down the street because it didn't like that I was coming down the street. So you never know what you're going to run into.
That's that's I imagine quite the story.
So when you that first networking event, what was your kind of overall at the end of it going, okay, what just happened? Like, what was your experience? What do you take from that experience?
Well, first of all, I was so inspired because being 17 years old, I think I mentioned it a couple minutes ago, I knew nothing about the world, quite literally. Everything that I knew existed within the confines of the big concrete building I went to high school in, the job that I worked, and the internet that I watched on my phone all day, every day, right? As a Gen Zer, it's kind of it's easy to be in a box. And when I walked away from Grow, I had this exhilarating feeling, like I just got a taste of what the world has to offer. There's so many hardworking, bright, really compassionate people in Grow, and it made me want to work hard to join them and be like everyone there and contribute. Because I could see and grow. I was a little concerned that I would be, in some sort of a like a gangster movie of like you're going into some shady back room and meeting a bunch of stone cold business owners who are there to just pass manila folders across the table and kind of eye you funny unless you had a warm connection. But instead, I was surprised to see that there are people there who really cared about helping other people. And that's the message that really gets lost when you're an entrepreneur, is that you're not just there to just make money. No one wants to do business with you if you're just there to make money. And that goes with clients, and that goes with B2B, like getting referrals. Is your purpose needs to be greater than just making money. And that's kind of the biggest takeaway to me of, oh my gosh, this isn't just me pressure washing to do a side job. It started to make me think whenever I went on a job, like this is someone who's having family for the winter, who's going to have a cleaner house and is going to have everyone feel comfortable, right? This is someone who's maybe has sensitive health, who's not going to have to worry about mold and algae, giving them respiratory problems. So it opened my eyes in many, many different ways. It was a very defining moment in my career and in my life, honestly, just stepping away from that networking event.
And for our listeners, we're using just the term grow. That the grow is a networking group. It's called the Grow Business Network. So
Hmm.
if when we say the word grow,
Yeah.
that's why we're referring to that. But yeah, and I think you learned right away how networking really works. It's about building relationships
Hmm.
and making friends, and they're going to do business with you. A lot of times, unfortunately, we see a lot of people come into a networking group and all they want is to take, take, take. And so they come in, they throw cards in everybody's face, and then they're mad because no one wants to do business with them. And it's
Yeah.
more about building a relationship with them, getting to know them, finding out about how their lives work, how their business works before they start sharing their customer list with you and vice versa, and it grows from there.
Mhm.
So I think you learned that early on, because I see this with a lot of adults that come in just starting their business for the first time, walk into a networking event, and they just run up to you and throw their business card in your face and say, hey, I can do this for you, I can do that. I'm like, you didn't even ask me my name. So
Yeah.
getting to know how to interact with people is very important to do that.
Mm.
So did was it the very first meeting that they decided to give you money to kind of cover your cost to join, or was it two
Mm.
or three meetings
It
that you had visited?
it had been quite a few. I basically picked up on every monthly meeting that I could get into, and I think the first one that I attended was a big monthly meeting. So there's, already, but the viewers don't. The networking event that we were attending, it had several different days of the week that were occupied by different groups that would meet on that day regularly. And then once a month, all those groups would come together for a one big monthly meeting. So I attended that first monthly meeting and got invited by a few people to join their weekly meeting just to visit the next week. And I think that was the Wednesday Warriors, which is what we were called because we were on Wednesdays. And I think it was by the second time, the second week after that, that I had showed up that, no one was saying, hey, why is this visitor still showing up without paying up? At that point, when they mentioned, the fee, it was decided that they wanted to pitch in for mine because, I was clearly, this is the third visit now. I'm clearly serious and I want to get started. I want to really get the ball rolling. And like I said, it was such a compassionate move from everybody. I will never forget that.
So before you were actually got the money to get paid, did you get any clients in those
I
first couple
did.
meetings?
I
So,
did actually. Some work I picked up for free just because I wanted portfolio work, and some of that free work turned into referrals to neighbors. It wasn't like I was saying, "Here's the price, let's do it." It was, "Hey, I'm young and you don't know to trust me because I don't have any social proof of how good I am. Yeah, I might be cute and irresistible and whatever, but at the end of the day, I want to show that I'm a hard worker, and I want to show that I can do good work. So a lot of the people that I met with, some of them, I said, "Hey, listen, I'll just help you out for free. I mean, maybe just mention my name to your neighbors, but I also want to like get to know you." And build that relationship. I'm very happy that I recognized that early on, that was more important than just waving around price tags and saying, I'll do a driveway for $50, just, right now only. Please, anyone sign up, anybody. Though I will admit that I would be lying if I didn't say I probably did at my first ever networking event because I truly had no idea what it was all about.
yeah, yeah. And I think again, that's a great lesson to learn right up front is sometimes if you give it away a little bit, in the beginning, just to show what you can do, it does speak volumes to your work, and then
Absolutely.
neighbors see it, and a lot of people get worried about that. They're like, well, I can't just give it away, and I can't just do it for free. Everybody else is getting $30 an hour or $50 an hour. So I think that. And they are also spending money on advertising. So to get people there. So you didn't have any advertising cost, and you just get out there and show them what you can do, and then the neighbors
Yeah,
see.
my own blood, sweat, and tears. And I understand it's not always the case for everyone that they can do it totally for free. But I think in the case of when you are just starting out and you're just trying to establish a reputation and also feel out your market, free work is not a terrible idea.
So what was your biggest win through the network and getting jobs?
My biggest win, I think, was the I would say it's an accumulative win because I would say that that networking event probably accounted for about 90% of my business in the entire lifespan of my pressure washing business. To me, that's my biggest win because I never really dabbled much in commercial work. I was mostly focused on cleaning houses, cleaning driveways, walls, a little bit of roofs, pools, that sort of thing. But it exploded into, a network of people who trusted me. And it was saddening to have to say goodbye to those people when I inevitably ended my business. But that I take a lot of pride in what it became.
Nice. I forgot to tell you that on the other day I had an event in Orlando, and I
Mhm.
met a kid that was 16 years old. He had his own painting business. So
Ooh,
he would go door to door actually selling the jobs, and he had a painting crew that he would give the work to. And so the painting crew had their own insurance, had all their tools, and
mm,
all he did is went knocking on doors looking for the
that's
work. And
awesome.
and he was averaging each job that he closed a $4,000 profit because
Wow.
he didn't have any expenses other than his time
Yeah,
walking the
showing
neighborhood.
up being the salesman.
Yeah, yeah. So, what would be your biggest learning lesson along the way? And I don't like to say failure, but we all have failures along the way or
Right.
things that trip us up. What was kind of the biggest lesson you learned that said, "Hey, this isn't good"?
I think the biggest lesson that I learned was that listening is probably the number one thing that I could have done more of. When we build a business and we want to provide services to someone, we tend to, without doing research, think that we know what the other person's thinking. We tend to think that people are just like us. And in some way they are. But I learned over a very long period of time that people are very, very different. And people are just dying to tell you what it is that they want, what they expect. And sometimes we're not always willing to actually hear it. So I feel like the thing that I apply every single day is forcing myself to listen and understand first in every situation before I assume someone wants my service for this reason, before I assume someone is ready to use my services. It's really to start a conversation and understand their actual needs. Because nothing really bothers me more than trying to sell something to someone that they don't actually need. That's probably the biggest no-no in business ever. So I
So
would
as
encapsulate it with that.
Nice. And so as you were kind of building and growing, I know you brought on a couple employees and were trying to manage them. I was that a challenge in the beginning to have your first employees and try to manage that?
Yeah, that was tough because it's one of those chicken or the egg situations of in order to have employees, you got to be able to pay them, but in order to make money, you might need the extra help. So it was really nerve-wracking to get started, but it all came down to connections. I started out with just friends that I knew who just had extra free time, who wanted to put in the time, who knew about my business. And I said, "Hey, listen, here's the deal. I want to pay you on like a per job basis, and we'll try this out so that way I can expand my time as a salesman and I can send the jobs to you. You can use my equipment and we can divvy it up that way." And that was great, but it was challenging as time went on, because you have to make sure that your demand for your services can meet what it costs to pay this person. So that's a whole other challenge in and of itself.
Yeah. And I know that when you began, you're just looking for something to try. You didn't know what to do. You did pressure
Hmm.
washing. It's a dirty job, but
Yeah,
you're actually you were a techie kid and kind of knew the computer inside and out.
yeah,
So you had another opportunity come along and um, give you a nice little paycheck. So you
yeah.
kind of put the business on side and took the paycheck for a while just to get the experience in the tech world. How's that worked out for you?
It's been fantastic. I mean, it's been one of those people always say, do what you love. And when I started my pressure washing business, I had no idea what I loved. I was incapable of like truly looking at myself and looking at my skills, my passions, and making a decision based off that. I think pressure washing was quite literally my first choice. I just took it and ran with it because I was tired of just sitting around and thinking about it. But now that I've had the time, when I really realized, man, I really like development, I love programming, I worked my tush off and got into it. I finished my degree in 6 months because I saw an opportunity on the horizon and I did not want to miss it. And so here I am now. I'm a software engineer. I don't run my pressure washing business anymore, and I would not change it for the world.
So what's next for you? Are you gonna get into the tech world on the entrepreneur side?
Yes, absolutely. I'm in the planning stages of my own development agency. Right now, I'm just in the weeds of picking out who can I best serve. I want to be in the B2B space, help with business automation and teach businesses, help businesses directly with leveraging technology, not just leveraging any technology, but like custom technology. Like as an engineer, I realize the power that we have on our laptops and on our computers and other tools that could really accelerate businesses far beyond what they can expect. Being some guy who is used to texting, 20 clients at the same time and sending emails and trying to draft up proposals and manage everything through Excel spreadsheets, I see the value immensely, and I just want to pick the right audience to be able to start helping.
So
But yeah,
when I started with my business walking door to door, I had notebooks that were just full of all my notes and like all my customers. I didn't have a database. I didn't have a CRM. I
mhm.
had notebooks with all the stuff written down. And so yeah, technology has definitely made it a lot easier for business to manage that kind of stuff. Because I had to go back through. I had books basically by month that for every all the work that I did, and I'd just go back to those
Wow,
books to look for customers. So,
that
yeah,
must have been
it's
super tedious.
oh yeah, and I didn't have time. As you're trying to grow your business, you don't have time to go back and look at all those names and all those phone numbers and addresses. And people weren't using emails at that time very much for
No.
work, and they weren't really using it for home services kind of work. So.
Dare I say you were probably going to those people's doors directly or giving them a call to figure that
Exactly.
stuff out.
Exactly. So, what advice would you give other young people and kids about getting out there and starting a business?
I'm going to give the most cliche advice ever, which is if you think you have an idea, just do it. Don't think yourself into a box and just decide you're not going to after a couple of days, but just try it. Just start talking to people. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the what ifs. Maybe go out on a limb and say, yeah, I have a business. Hey, I have a business that does this. Can I service you? Maybe you didn't do any work to set it up, but just try it out. You don't know. It might work out. Maybe you'll realize people don't actually need what you think you want to sell, but the first step is just trying and just doing it.
And it's all about solving problems, right? You find
Yeah, yeah.
what problems people are having, and you try to come up with a solution to make their life easier,
Hmm.
and that's what sells. So, well, thank you, Grant, for coming on the show today. Do you have any last words of advice?
I wanted to mention that something recently that I've been hearing a lot that I think really resonates with anyone who's trying to be in business is that when you're solving a problem, it's all about pain. Find where the pain is and help fix that pain. That's all I really have left to say.
Yeah, and that's right. That's very good advice because everybody wants to avoid pain, and
Hmm.
if you can find a way to take the pain away, they're going to spend money to do it. So,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, if you're interested in getting your kids involved at the Biz Kids, you can find us online at bizkidsusa.org. We have an online training program that can help kids kind of get started, and then use the podcast. Hear some of these stories of what other people are doing and where they're getting their inspiration and how they're doing it. This is just the best way to kind of open doors and open your mind to all the opportunities that are out there. So thanks for being on the Biz Kids podcast, Grant, and we will see you guys next time.